This video will guide you into the heart of Jiddu Krishnamurti's teachings to show you how to deeply calm your mind, not by practicing a technique, but by seeing through the very psychological structure of conflict and division that creates all inner turmoil. The following is an authentic, verbatim excerpt from Jiddu Krishnamurti's book, The First and Last Freedom. So, we have the what is, which is the fact, and the what should be, which is the ideal. In the interval between the what is and the what should be is the conflict, the struggle, the effort. If you can understand the what is, then the what should be is not necessary. If I am stupid and I understand that I am stupid, I can do something about it. But if I say, I must be clever, then I am in a state of conflict. The what is the real. The what should be is the illusion. Now, why do we have this duality? Why do we have this contradiction in our lives? I am this, and I should be that. In this contradiction, we live our lives. This contradiction is a waste of energy. It is a destructive force. If you look at yourself, you will see that you are in a state of contradiction. You are violent, and you want to be peaceful. You are greedy, and you want to be non-greedy. This is a fact. Now, who is the entity that says, I must be peaceful? It is still the mind, is it not? The mind which is violent says, I must be peaceful. So, it is still a trick of the mind. The I, which is violent, has recognized that it is profitable to be peaceful, and so it says, I must be peaceful. The motive is still greed. The I has not changed. It is merely covering itself with a new cloak called peace. This is a deception. As long as the I, the center, exists, there must be conflict. The problem is not how to get rid of violence, but how to understand the I, which is the center of all conflict. The fundamental reason your mind is not calm is that it is a house divided against itself. It is a battlefield, a theater of perpetual civil war. This is not a poetic exaggeration. It is a precise, clinical description of our everyday psychological reality. The core of this war, as Krishnamurti pointed out with relentless clarity, is the conflict between what is and what should be. What is the raw, unadorned fact of the present moment. It is the feeling of anger as it arises, the thought of jealousy as it appears, the reality of our inattention, our confusion, our fear. What should be is the ideal, the concept, the memory, the projection created by thought. It is the image of ourselves as peaceful, generous, enlightened, attentive, and courageous. Our entire psychological life is spent in the painful, energy-consuming gap between these two poles. To deeply calm your mind is to understand the nature of this gap and to see if it can be closed, not by forcing the what is to become the what should be, for that is the very definition of conflict and violence, but by seeing the what should be for the illusion that it is. The ideal is a fiction. The concept of the peaceful me that I should become is a projection of the mind that is right now not peaceful. It is an escape from the reality of the present moment. We believe that by holding on to the ideal, by striving towards it, we are engaging in a noble spiritual or psychological project. But what we are actually doing is deepening the division within ourselves. Consider the simple fact of violence or anger. The fact is, a feeling of anger has arisen. This is what is. Immediately, thought comes in and says, I should not be angry. A good person, a spiritual person, is peaceful. This is what should be. In that instant, a war begins. A part of me, the ideal of peace, declares war on another part of me, the fact of anger. I try to suppress the anger, to control it, to rationalize it, to get rid of it. All of this effort, this inner struggle, is a state of intense conflict. It is the very opposite of a calm mind. The mind is now a battleground. and all its energy is being wasted in this internal friction. The initial anger may have been a simple, clean flash of energy, but the conflict about the anger is a lingering, toxic state that can poison our being for hours or days. This pattern repeats itself in every corner of our lives. We are confused, but we believe we should be clear. We are lonely, but we believe we should be self-sufficient and joyous. We are greedy, but we believe we should be generous. This constant measurement of the actual against the imaginary is the source of our ceaseless anxiety, guilt, and frustration. We are perpetually failing to live up to the images that thought has created. This failure generates a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy, a psychological pain that we then try to escape from by creating even more ideals, more goals, more what should be's. It is a self-perpetuating cycle of conflict and escape. Krishnamurti's radical insight is that peace, or a calm mind, is not found by winning the war against what is. It is found by completely abandoning the war. And the only way to abandon the war is to see that one of the opposing armies, the army of what should be, is a ghost, a phantom created by thought. The ideal has no reality. The only reality is what is. The only thing that is real is the anger, the confusion, the loneliness as it is happening in this moment. So, the first step to a deeply calm your mind is to withdraw all energy from the ideal. It is to cease the comparison. This requires an extraordinary quality of attention. It means looking at your own anger without the filter of, I should be peaceful. It means observing your own confusion without the goal of becoming clear. It means being with the fact of your loneliness without the desperate attempt to escape it. Can you do that? Can you look at what is without any movement of thought to condemn, justify, or change it? This is incredibly difficult because our entire conditioning is based on this movement of becoming. We are taught from birth to strive, to improve, to achieve. The idea of simply being with what is seems passive, nihilistic, even dangerous. We think, if I just accept my anger, won't I become a violent person? If I accept my confusion, won't I be confused forever? But this is a trick of the mind. The truth is the opposite. It is the fight against anger that perpetuates it, that gives it a lingering life. When you look at anger completely, without resistance, a different kind of intelligence comes into operation. You are no longer fueling the conflict. You are simply observing the energy of anger as it is. And what is observed with this total, non-judgmental attention begins to transform. The energy that was locked in the conflict is released, and the anger, having lived its natural course, dissolves. The calm mind is not a mind that has successfully suppressed all its negative traits and is now full of positive ones. That is a dead mind, a mind in conformity with a pattern. A truly calm mind is a mind that is no longer in a state of contradiction. It is a mind that has the capacity to be with what is, whatever that may be. It is a mind that is alive, flexible, and intelligent because it is not wasting its energy in the futile internal war. This is the beginning of the journey. The first step is to see, with absolute clarity, the anatomy of our own inner conflict, the destructive and illusory battle between the fact of what we are and the idea of what we think we should be. To see this structure is to begin to be free of it. This direct seeing of the inner workings of our own consciousness is the most vital journey. It is a path of self-discovery that stands apart from all organized beliefs and systems. It is a solitary investigation, yet the very act of undertaking it connects us to all others who are genuinely seeking to understand the nature of the mind and end human suffering. Before continuing, I would like to ask you to subscribe and help our study group on non-duality. The goal of this channel is to spread philosophies about self-knowledge. Thank you to all who follow us. We have seen that the root of inner turmoil is the conflict between what is and what should be. This naturally leads to a crucial question. Who is the entity that perpetuates this conflict? Who is the one that looks at the anger and says, I should be peaceful? Who is the one that feels confused and strives for clarity? We call this entity I, me, the self, the ego. We take its existence for granted. We believe there is a permanent central controller living inside our heads, a thinker behind the thoughts, an observer who is separate from the things being observed. Krishnamurti's most radical and challenging insight is that this controller, this observer, this I, is an illusion, and it is this very illusion that is the source of all conflict. Let us investigate this together. Do not simply accept or reject what is being said. Look into your own mind and see if it is true. When you are in a state of conflict, there seems to be two of you. There is the you who is angry, and there is the you who is watching the anger and trying to control it. There is the you who is lazy, and the you who is the disciplinarian, scolding yourself and trying to force yourself to be active. We call this discipline self-control. But what is actually happening? The entity that says, I must control my anger, is it any different from the anger it is trying to control? Or is it just another thought? Thought has created the feeling of anger based on some memory or reaction. Then, seeing that anger is painful or socially unacceptable, thought creates another idea, the idea of me, the controller, who must now do something about this anger. So, one thought is trying to control another thought. One fragment of the mind is trying to dominate another fragment. This is the very essence of division and conflict. You have simply split yourself in two and created a war within. The controller is the controlled. They are not two separate things. They are both movements of thought. This is why all our efforts to deeply calm your mind through will and control are doomed to failure. The will is the expression of the I, the controller. When you say, I will be calm, the I who is making this resolution is itself a product of the restless, desiring mind. It is a thought born of the discomfort of not being calm. So, the entity that is trying to impose calm is itself a state of disturbance. This is a profound contradiction. You cannot put out a fire with fire. You cannot end conflict by creating another form of conflict, which is what self-control is. This creates a state of perpetual strain. We are always trying to be better, to be different from what we are. This trying is a form of violence against ourselves. It drains our energy and creates a subtle or gross tension that pervades our entire being. We live with this tension constantly, and we have come to accept it as normal. But it is not normal. It is the neurotic state of a mind that is at war with itself because it does not understand its own nature. The escape from this trap does not lie in more effective control or a stronger will. It lies in seeing the falseness of the entire structure. It lies in the direct perception that the observer is the observed. When you have a thought, where is the thinker who is separate from that thought? Can you find this thinker? Or, when you look for the thinker, do you only find more thoughts? The thinker is a fiction created by thought for its own security, to give itself a sense of permanence. Thought says, there must be a thinker, otherwise I wouldn't exist. It creates its own author. When this is seen, not as an intellectual concept, but as a direct, living reality, the entire dynamic of inner conflict collapses. If there is no me separate from the anger, who is there to fight it? Who is there to condemn it or try to change it? There is only the state of anger itself. The division is gone. The controller has vanished because it has been seen as a ghost. And when the internal conflict ceases, the energy that was being wasted in that battle is freed. This is the central teaching of Krishnamurti. To calm your mind is not to achieve a state of placid tranquility through force. It is to bring about the cessation of inner conflict. And the cessation of inner conflict happens only when there is the insight that the two opposing sides are in fact one. The me and the not me, the what is and the what should be, the observer and the observed. All these dualities are the artificial creations of thought. So, how does one come to this insight? Not through analysis, not through belief, not through following any authority, including Krishnamurti. It comes through choiceless awareness. It comes through observing the movements of your own mind without the observer. This sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it is the key. It means to watch your anger without the I who is judging the anger. It means to simply be aware of the arising and falling of thoughts and feelings without the censor, the controller, stepping in to interfere. This is an extraordinarily active state of attention. It is not a passive zoning out. It is a state of high intelligence and sensitivity. You watch the whole movement of your consciousness as you would watch a fascinating, complex film, but a film in which you realize you are both the screen, the projector, and the images. There is no separation. In this state of choiceless awareness, the thing being observed begins to wither away for lack of fuel. When you are simply aware of jealousy, for example, without condemning it, I am a bad person for being jealous, or justifying it, I have a right to be jealous. The jealousy has no ground to stand on. The stories, the images, the self-pity that normally feed it are not being supplied. You are not fighting it, so it has no wall to push against. You are not indulging it, so it has no food. You are simply shining the light of pure attention on it. And in that light, it reveals its own empty, insubstantial nature and dissolves. This is the only true way to deeply calm your mind. It is the end of the self-improvement project, which is the ego's project to perpetuate itself through becoming. It is the beginning of a life of true intelligence, which is the capacity to respond to the present moment freshly, without the baggage of the past and the conflict of the I. The calm that comes from this is not a fragile state that can be easily disturbed. It is the profound stability of a mind that is whole, undivided, and therefore free. This journey requires a quality of seriousness and a passion for self-discovery. It is the willingness to question the very foundation of one's own being. When a feeling like fear arises, the movement of the mind is to immediately create a division. There is me, and there is the fear. The me feels the fear, is afraid of the fear, and wants to get rid of the fear. This is the familiar structure of conflict. The insight that Krishnamurti points to is the seeing that this division is an illusion. The me who is afraid is not separate from the fear itself. The me is the fear. Let's look at this more closely. What is fear? It is a reaction, a movement of thought projecting a painful past experience into a possible future. It is a constellation of bodily sensations, images, and words. Now, who is the I who is experiencing this? Is there another entity standing behind all this, looking at it? Or is the very sensation of I part of the constellation of fear? When you are totally frightened, in that very instant, there is no I and fear. There is only the state of fearing. The separation is created a moment later by thought, which steps back and says, I was afraid. Thought creates the subject, the experiencer, after the fact, in order to give itself a sense of continuity. To see this directly is to end the struggle with fear. If you are the fear, you cannot run from it. You cannot fight it. You cannot suppress it. The entity that would do the running or the fighting is part of the fear itself. So what is left? Only to be with the state of fear completely. Only to give your total, undivided attention to this energy as it is, without the story, without the label fear, without the observer. When you do this, something extraordinary happens. The energy that was locked in the internal battle, the battle between me and my fear, is released. Fear, when observed without an observer, is just energy. And this energy, when it is no longer being fought or fed, simply lives out its course and dissolves. It is no longer a psychological problem. This same process applies to every form of inner disturbance. Take loneliness. We experience a painful feeling of isolation. Thought labels it loneliness and creates the I who is lonely. This I feels sorry for itself, desires companionship, and is in conflict with the state of loneliness. But what if one sees that the I who feels lonely is not separate from the feeling of loneliness? The I is the feeling of isolation, the memory of past companionship, the desire for future connection. When this is seen, there is no one left to be lonely. There is only the state of being alone, which is a simple fact, not a psychological problem. The pain of loneliness comes from the resistance to being alone, from the desire to escape it. When the resistance drops because the resistor is seen as an illusion, the pain subsides. This is the depth of what it means to deeply calm your mind. It is not about finding a technique to feel better. It is about dissolving the entity that feels bad. It is about seeing through the central illusion of the me, the observer, the psychological center. As long as this center exists, it will be in conflict with its own circumference, with its own experiences. The center is a creation of memory, of the past. It is always trying to control the present, to shape it according to its conditioning. This is a battle it can never win, and the result is a life of endless effort and turmoil. The calm that Krishnamurti speaks of is the quality of a mind in which this center has ceased to operate. This doesn't mean the body and mind cease to function. On the contrary, they function with far greater intelligence and harmony because they are no longer being distorted by the desires and fears of the egoic center. Action becomes a direct response to the present moment, rather than a reaction based on past conditioning. Relationships become possible for the first time, because when there is no me and no you as separate psychological entities, there can be a true meeting, a true communion. This is not a state to be achieved in the future. The very idea of achieving it belongs to the old pattern of the observer striving for a result. The insight into the non-duality of the observer and the observed can happen now, in this very moment. It is a matter of attention, of looking. It is to be aware of the total process of your own consciousness, without choice, without judgment, without the observer. This is true meditation. It is not a practice you do for 20 minutes a day. It is a way of living every moment of your life. It is to be aware as you walk, as you eat, as you speak. It is to watch the arising of thought and feeling, and to see the trick the mind plays when it creates the I, who is the owner of these experiences. With this awareness, the trick loses its power. The illusion can no longer deceive you. The mind that is free from this illusion is naturally calm. Its calmness is not a dead, stagnant quality. It is the deep, vibrant silence of a vast lake on a windless day. The water is perfectly clear, reflecting the sky and the mountains exactly as they are. This is the mind that has the capacity to see what is true, because it is no longer projecting its own conflicts, desires, and fears onto the world. It is a mind that is free, and therefore it is a mind that can love. The end of conflict is the beginning of love. This is the ultimate promise of this pathless journey of self-discovery.